Late dry season hangs over a forward arming and refueling point in East Africa. Red dust lifts in sheets with every rotor wash and sticks to skin like grit. Heat shimmers over Blivitz and Hesco as crews move in short bursts from shade to task and water cans. On the radio, a broken call from the Tactical Operations Center cuts through the static, reporting a special mission unit with a ranger platoon pinned in a narrow cut where rock and brush trap them under fire. Inside the tented TOC, maps and message traffic stack up while the clock feels louder than the generator and the afternoon air. Viper 11 sits with a fresh hydraulic leak that needs isolation and an ops check before anyone clears it. Viper 12 shows a fault that demands deeper troubleshooting and a maintenance release. So it is grounded for now. The ground element is black on ammo soon, and distance-to-air support will decide whether they hold or break. Leaders weigh more than tactics as they listen to fragments about civilians near structures and roads, and the need for positive identification before any close fires. They know the team on the ground needs help fast. But the rules and the risks sit on the same scale and costs. Radio squelch flares, then fades, and the FARP goes quiet except for tools and the wind. Who can put a gunship in the air right now? And who among the quiet hands will step forward now? Red earth stretches under sun-bleached sky, packed into a flat that serves as a forward arming and refueling point. Hesco forms windbreaks around Blivitz that sweat, fuel, smell into the heat. Rotor wash turns dust into a fine veil that sticks to skin and goggles as engines cycle on and off. At the hot pit, chocks, lock wheels. A marshaller guides with paddles, and a fireguard stands ready with an extinguisher while hoses clack on fittings. The maintenance platoon works in tight teams of MOS-15, RAH-64 attack helicopter repairer, eyes on panels and hands on tools. Nearby, the armament team stages belts for the M230, rockets for Hydra 70 or APKWS, and rails for AGM 114R. Checking pins and safeties twice. FARP ops track fuel, flow, and safety arcs, while a field ATC net keeps traffic orderly and the Tactical Operations Center pushes updated tasking across the radio. Hot refuel and rapid turnarounds keep the tempo high. But every step is deliberate to keep people clear of intakes and exhaust. Brownout risk hangs over each departure and landing. So, procedures rule the day and nobody freelances. The Apache flies with 2 crew by design. A pilot in command in the back seat and a co-pilot gunner in the front, who runs TEDAC with TADS PNVS for the picture. This is not a crew chief aircraft. And the language stays precise on the net. Rules of engagement and positive identification frame every decision when structures and bystanders sit close to the fight, setting the stage for the hard choice that will come next. Staff Sergeant Maya Brooks keeps the FARP steady the way a metronome keeps a band on time. She is an AH-6415R technical inspector and the maintenance lead who signs what flies and grounds what does not. Years ago, she followed the aviator track and lived inside systems and emergency procedures until a training mishap and unit politics put that path on hold. She never argued the point and chose to let the work speak for her. Her toolbox carries a stained kneeboard card that rides under wrenches and rags. The card holds quick notes for emergency procedures, TEDAC cues, and a close combat attack 5-line. She knows the sound of a tired pump and the feel of a bad vibration through panels before the warnings light up. Her rhythm is clean, hands to panel, eyes to gauges, voice calm on the net, and then back to the next task. Maya is not a rated pilot, and she will not take the aircraft alone. The Apache is built for 2, and her best seat is the front as the co-pilot gunner. There, she runs TEDAC and TADS PNVS, works the laser and handoff, and builds the tactical picture while a rated pilot in command manages the aircraft from the back. She fits into that crew like a missing gear. Quiet, precise, and ready to do the hard parts no one sees. The air over the FARP hangs hot and still, and the day feels like it is waiting. When the moment turns hard, her knowledge will be the key that moves steel and people to the right place at the right time. Rock walls press tight on both sides, while a narrow cut runs like a funnel toward scrub and broken stone. An element from a special mission unit holds the center, while a ranger platoon anchors the flanks, trading short bursts with fire from a ridgeline above. Engines from technical trucks growl in the dust as they try to swing around the blind side and close the gap. Dirt hangs in the air. Breath comes sharp, and every movement snaps against the sound of rounds on rock. Sergeant First Class Jordan Reed works the radio with a JTAC mindset and a forward observer calm. He pushes updates through a fading signal, marks a temporary pickup zone for casualties, and keeps a map in his head when the screen washes out. He listens for call signs and range, then trims the message so the net stays clear. The team shifts wounded behind a boulder line, while security fights to keep a lane open. Civilians move near low structures at the far end of the cut, which forces restraint and positive identification before any close fires can be asked for. Magazines run light, and the timeline shrinks as the next push from the ridge threatens to crack the formation. Reed keys the net and sends a clean request to the Tactical Operations Center for immediate air. One gunship to hold the corridor and break the flank. The words are simple. The meaning is heavy. And the need is now. The Tactical Operations Center hums with radios and a generator while the heat presses in like a heavy coat. A runner brings the update that the ground element is nearly out of ammunition and needs air now. Viper 11 sits cold with a fresh hydraulic leak that requires isolation and an ops check before any movement. Viper 12 shows a fault that demands deeper troubleshooting and a maintenance release, which means it is grounded until cleared. The battalion commander, a lieutenant colonel, here's the S3, a major, outline the risks and timelines. The company commander, a captain, adds crew availability and security for the FARP. The room weighs distance to target, playtime, and danger to civilians near structures that force positive identification. The calculus is grim, and the clock does not stop while they speak in short, clean sentences. Staff Sergeant Maya Brooks steps forward with a plan anchored in procedure, not bravado. She states that she can get one Apache up, and that she can crew it, and that she needs a rated pilot and 10 minutes. She lays out targeted fault isolation, a line replaceable unit swap, safety wire and torque to specification, and a ground run to drive built-in tests to a GO. As technical inspector, she will clear the red X and sign the maintenance release if the checks are clean. The lieutenant colonel gives the nod that breaks the tension like a switch. FARP Ops marks a hot pit with chocks, a marshaller, and a fire guard on station. Armament stages M230. Hydra with possible APKWS. And AGM 114R. While comms hold with the ground element under rules of engagement. The room moves from worry to focus as the maintenance team runs to the aircraft, and the countdown finally favors the friendlies. Red dust curls around boots and tool carts as the 15R team moves with steady pace toward the silent AH-64. Maya Brooks leads with a technical manual open in her head, calling out fault isolation, steps in clipped. Calm phrases that everyone understands. Panels come off in sequence. Connectors are tagged and checked. And the suspect line, replaceable unit, comes free with careful hands. She inspects for foreign objects, sets torque to specification, lays safety wire clean, then signs the panel back in with a wipe of grit and sweat. Across the pad, another crew verifies the hydraulic system. Eyes on fittings, while a fire guard waits with an extinguisher and a clear lane. The hot pit perimeter is marked with chocks, and a marshaller keeps bodies and hoses where they belong, far from intakes and exhaust. Engines light for a ground run, and the cockpit comes alive, while built-in test pages begin to scroll. Maya watches engine and electrical numbers settle, then nods when the last caution clears to a solid GO. As technical inspector, she strikes the red X and signs the maintenance release, then hands the packet to operations without breaking stride. Armament stages the load that fits the mission. M230 mm linked and checked. Hydra 70 with APKWS for point targets. And AGM 114R Hellfire on rails with safeties confirmed. Fuel team rigs the hose for hot refuel. Marshaller on station. Fire guard locked in place. And the radio throws short updates that keep everyone aligned. The clock still runs, but the hands in the dust run smoother, and the aircraft rolls toward its crew with the kind of confidence that only procedures can buy. Chief Warrant Officer 3 Daniel Miller sprints across the red pad with his helmet in hand. He is an instructor pilot, and he is assigned as pilot in command in the back seat. Crew chiefs wave him through the hot pit while a marshaller sets the lane. He climbs the ladder, straps in, and begins a calm flow that quiets the noise around him. Staff Sergeant Maya Brooks settles into the front as co-pilot gunner and pulls the TEDAC grips into her hands. Their cockpit brief is short and exact. Miller holds aircraft control, navigation, and weapons release authority, and he owns flight safety. Maya runs TEDAC and TADS PNVS, manages the laser and sensor handoff, builds the tactical picture, and keeps the weapons page ready. They set the rules in plain words that leave no gaps. Readbacks must be clean. Rules of engagement apply at every step, and positive identification is required before any close fires. Danger close references are 75 meters for the M230 30mm and about 150 meters for the AGM 114 Romeo Hellfire, adjusted by terrain and by the direction from the ground controller. Miller reviews fuel, power margin, and departure headings, while Maya calls winds and obstacles for a brownout lift. They align radio presets and set the plan to check in with the ground element using a close combat attack 5 line. He confirms he has the aircraft. She confirms she has the sensors. They agree on callouts for drift, torque, and attitude through the dust, and on the handover cues they will use when the fight begins. The rotors bite the air. The marshaller clears the nose. And the mission finally has a crew. Chocks bite into the tires, and a marshaller carves clear paths with steady arms, while a fire guard stands ready with an extinguisher. Safety arcs are checked, and the hot pit is quiet, except for engines spooling and radios clicking. Checklists are complete, and the cabin feels tight with focus. The pad is red dust and heat, and everyone knows the plan. The pilot in command in the back seat lifts into a hover and trusts instruments through the brown cloud. He guards power margin, watches attitude references, and holds a stable climb while the dust tries to swallow the horizon. In the front seat, the co-pilot gunner calls drift, obstacles, and winds, and confirms engine instruments are steady. The aircraft breaks the veil and the sky opens to clean air. They settle into a low transit profile that uses terrain masking and a nap of the earth rhythm over scrub and rock. Radio stays short and clear, with position checks and fuel updates kept to what matters. The crew plans to push to the tactical frequency near the objective and prepare a close combat attack 5 line with the ground controller. They will declare playtime and ordnance. M230 30mm, Hydra 70, or APKWS, and AGM 114 Romeo Hellfire. Inside the cockpit, roles stay crisp before the fight begins. He has the aircraft and she has the sensors, with readbacks that leave no doubt. Any handover will be called, confirmed, and then executed without drift. The noise is loud. The air is hot. And the work is calm. Viper 11 checks in overhead as one Apache on station with fuel and time to work. The crew gives playtime, fuel state, and a clear list of ordnance that includes M230 30mm, Hydra 70 or APKWS, and AGM-114 Romeo Hellfire. Nets are busy. But the voice of Sergeant First Class Jordan Reed cuts clean as he works as a joint terminal attack controller. He sets the frame for close combat attack and keeps the traffic tight and useful. Reed passes a 5-line in simple terms that survives static and stress. He gives target location, a crisp description, a reference that ties it to terrain, the position of friendly forces, and the type of control required by the rules of engagement. In the front seat, the co-pilot gunner builds the picture on TEDAC, lasers with TADs to pull range, and confirms friendlies with smoke by day or infrared by night. The crew sets a final attack heading that keeps them clear of friendlies and known no-fire areas. Readbacks are exact and never rushed. The crew restates target, friendlies, and attack heading, then confirms danger close references of about 75 meters for 30mm and about 150 meters for Hellfire. They brief a no-fire plan if positive identification is not clean or if civilians move into the fight. Brevity stays short with cleared single, abort, and continue ready to cut through any burst of interference. The loop closes with Reed giving the right clearance, the pilot in command affirming that he has the aircraft, and the co-pilot gunner confirming that she has the sensors. Weapons move to a safe setup, and the team steadies for the opening shots of the next phase. The co-pilot gunner leans into the TEDAC picture and slews TADs to the left shoulder of a ridgeline. A 3-person gun team flickers among rocks near a dead tree. So she lasers and pulls a clean range that paints the bottom of the display. Friendly forces mark with smoke that drifts pale in the crosswind, and panels confirm the line. She sets a final attack heading that keeps the approach outside no-fire areas. Reads back target, friendlies, and heading, and requests measured bursts with danger, close held at about 75 meters. The pilot in command acknowledges and stabilizes the run, while the co-pilot gunner dials a slight left offset in mils to cut angle across the slope. The first squeeze of the M230 brings a short kick through the frame and a tidy string of impacts that stitch just below the muzzle flashes. She checks the sight again, adds 2 clicks of correction, and calls a second short burst that breaks the position without walking fire toward the smoke. Rules of engagement and positive identification remain in force, and she holds when a figure skirts the edge of a structure farther downslope. Silence returns in the gaps between bursts, and the ridge fire slackens to sporadic shots. The ground element reports pressure easing and signals that casualties are staged to move, while the aircraft climbs to a safe hold and resets the racetrack. The crew conducts a quick battle damage assessment, logs likely casualties on the ridge, and confirms no observed effects near civilian structures. Weapons remain safe between passes and the cockpit shifts to a ready posture, prepared to roll back to 30mm or hand over to APKWS if a point target appears and the picture stays clean. A technical truck breaks from cover and slides along the blind side of the formation. The co-pilot gunner snaps the TEDAC crosshairs onto the cab, checks the bed for a mounted gun, and confirms positive identification. She lasers with TADs to pull range and sketches a final attack heading that avoids known no-fire areas. A quick measure shows friendlies beyond about 150 meters, which clears the path for a standoff shot. In the back seat, the pilot in command selects AGM-114 Romeo and sets a Lowell DAR profile. The handoff from the front seat is clean. Rules of engagement are affirmed, and readbacks cover target, friendlies, heading, and distance. Brevity stays tight with cleared. Continue. Or abort, ready to cut through any spike of interference. He calls rifle and gives an estimated time of flight, while the co-pilot gunner keeps the laser and the picture steady. The warhead finds the technical, and the pressure on the flank drops to scattered small arms. The ground element reports movement in the corridor and begins to shift casualties toward the pickup point while the aircraft holds a safe racetrack. A quick battle damage assessment logs 1 vehicle destroyed. No observed effects near civilian structures. And no change to friendly positions. The pilot in command keeps the aircraft and manages power and spacing, while the co-pilot gunner scans with TDAC, ready to return to 30mm measured bursts, or move to APKWS if a point target appears, and the identification stays clean. The pilot in command keeps aircraft control and builds a clean pass that is meant to move people. Not to shoot, he sets a safe altitude, a disciplined speed, and an approach that holds separation from debris and friendly lines. Power margin is protected, and a climb-out is planned before the nose ever points down. In the front seat, the co-pilot gunner runs TDAC, watches for muzzle flashes, and reads winds, drift, and obstacles to shape a low pass that stays controlled. Rules of engagement and positive identification stay in effect even during a show of force. Abort is mandatory if targets blend with civilians, if communications drop, or if the distance to friendlies tightens below a safe threshold. Radio brevity with the ground element is simple and timed to the pass, with a request to have casualties ready to move as pressure lifts. The helicopter rumbles over the ridge, and the message carries without drama. Move now. I am your wall. Risk is managed on the gauges and in the hands. Bank angle is limited. Load limits are respected, and the nose is never held low longer than needed. The pass ends with a smooth climb to the pre-planned escape and a check of spacing from structures and friendlies. No weapons leave the rails unless the picture turns clean and a point target appears, in which case 30mm or APKWS can be brought up with control. Enemy fire scatters. A narrow corridor opens, and the crew slides back into a cover orbit, ready to hold the lane. The co-pilot gunner draws a clean corridor on the symbology and pins simple reference points that match the ground. She confirms friendlies with daytime smoke or infrared marks if it is night, and keeps their positions updated as the formation shifts. The pilot in command holds an eastern racetrack that cuts the enemy's firing angles while protecting power margin and safe separation from nearby homes. Airspeed and altitude stay inside briefed limits, so the lane stays predictable for everyone moving below. Radio traffic stays short with Sergeant First Class Jordan Reed to line up route, pace, and brief cover stops. Minimum force rules lead every choice. So the crew observes first, and only fires measured bursts with the M230 when identification is clean and the threat is immediate. APKWS is considered for a point target when a precise shot is needed and when the picture supports it. Unguided rockets are held unless the situation leaves no other option, and the risk is accepted. Danger close references remain clear at about 75 meters for 30mm, and the crew is ready to abort if friendlies drift toward the gun line. No fire areas from the Tactical Operations Center are honored and checked before every pass. The co-pilot gunner keeps scanning with TDAC, updates, final attack headings, and calls quick battle damage assessments when suppressing a reappearing gun. The corridor holds long enough for the ground element to clear the narrow cut, and the pilot in command keeps cover while preparing to shift back to 30mm or move to APKWS if the fight turns again. The ground element calls that they are beyond the corridor and the temporary pickup zone is clear. Fire along the route fades to scattered shots with no request for close support. In the front seat, the co-pilot gunner keeps scanning with TDAC and holds eyes on the last vehicles until they are off the route. A short battle damage assessment notes enemy positions suppressed and no observed effects near civilian structures. The pilot in command manages fuel with one eye on time and one on distance. Bingo, fuel is set, and the decision to return to base is made by the book. The crew checks out with the Joint Terminal Attack Controller or the Forward Observer and passes a final position. A brief call to the Tactical Operations Center lists weapons remaining, time on station, and aircraft status. The helicopter turns for home, and the ridge drops behind them. At the forward arming and refueling point, a marshaller waits with a clear lane while chocks and a fire guard are already in place. Brownout recovery is steady, with power margin protected and a soft set down on the pad. Dust settles. Radios go quiet, and the maintenance team walks in to receive the aircraft with a calm rhythm that closes the loop on a clean mission. Dust hangs low but begins to settle over the forward arming and refueling point. Chief Warrant Officer 3 Daniel Miller pulls off his helmet and gives a small nod to Staff Sergeant Maya Brooks. He recognizes the way she held the tactical picture on TEDAC, as if she had never left the front seat. The pad feels quiet again, and the moment stays professional in the way Army aviation prefers. Inside the Tactical Operations Center, the battalion commander, a lieutenant colonel, writes a short entry in the mission log. He records mission success, weapons, employment in line with the rules of engagement, and 0 civilian casualties based on the information available. There is no ceremony and no speech. The work is noted. The record is clean. And the net moves on to the next task. Maya slides a grease-stained kneeboard back into her toolbox and hears the familiar click of a torque wrench as the maintenance team returns to rhythm. The pilot in command passes a quick handover that includes fuel remaining, weapons remaining, and current system status. Then, schedules a debrief with the Tactical Operations Center and Armament at 7:15 p.m. The tone is steady and responsible, because every round fired brings lessons that belong to the whole team. Tools clack, rotors spin down, and the heat finally loosens its grip. What remains is a soft warmth that sits between people who do their jobs well. No one asks for applause, and no one needs it. A nod is enough when the work ran true and the corridor held. In that quiet, pride feels simple, and a fragile peace settles over the red earth before the next call comes. Red dust still hangs in the air where the rotors carve their circles, then settles in soft waves across the pad. A grease-stained kneeboard slides back into a metal toolbox, and the lid closes with a sure hand. Somewhere nearby, a torque wrench gives a clean click that sounds like a heartbeat finding its pace again. The day exhales, and what remains is the quiet pride of people who did the work the right way. This story is about competence, discipline, and responsibility that stand up when it matters. It is about a crew that follows procedures, respects rules of engagement, and keeps people safe without asking for a spotlight. If this moved you, type the word respect in the comments and pass the video to someone who shows up without fanfare. Follow the channel if you want more true stories of courage and steady hands, told with care and accuracy. Evening leans over the forward arming and refueling point, and the radios rest in a rare silence. The kneeboard stays folded in the box. The dust lifts in a last whisper, and the wrench waits for the next call. We close on that image because it belongs to all the quiet professionals who hold a line others may never see. This one was about Maya, but it is also about every person like her who turns effort into safety and brings people home. Heat rides the air like a quiet engine and takes me back to a runway I knew as a student in a T-6 Texan II. I remember emergency procedures drilled until they felt like muscle and breath. A sharp radio tone always made my shoulders jump. Then the checklist pulled me back to calm. The smell of fuel and dust is the same here, and the habit of order still steadies my hands. The kneeboard lives in the toolbox, stained and folded. A small promise I keep to myself. Before lift, I take one slow breath and set the outside noise aside, so only discipline and duty remain. Tonight I am not a rated pilot, and I will not take the aircraft alone. I can sit in the front seat as the co-pilot gunner. Run TEDAC and build the sensor picture, while a pilot in command in the back seat keeps the aircraft safe and true. When the fight rises, I move the crosshairs with care, lays for range, and stitch pieces of the field into a map that a teammate can trust. We speak in short words that carry weight, and the aircraft feels like a single mind split between two seats. Later, when the pad goes quiet, a torque wrench clicks, and the sound lands like a heartbeat returning to normal. Sometimes, courage is not about taking the lead. It is about standing in the right place so others can pass through unharmed. Set the first line at the decision point in the Tactical Operations Center as checklists and maintenance steps begin. Let the room exhale for one beat. Then drop the line, "Get me a rated pilot," and 10 minutes over the soft bed of rotor idle and paper maps. Keep ranks and roles correct, and let the nod from the lieutenant colonel be the cue that sets the crew in motion. Cut to boots moving and carts rolling so the words feel like action, not a speech. Place the second line at the peak of the show of force when the corridor opens and fire shifts away from the friendlies. Hold a half second of silence. Let rotor wash and a flat heart tone carry. Then land the line, "Move now. I am your wall," as the helicopter climbs out on the planned escape. Keep rules of engagement and positive identification in view, and do not fire during the pass unless a clean point target appears. Let the ground element begin to move so the line becomes a door, not a boast. Save the last line for the pad after safe return. With helmets off and logs open, let the instructor pilot speak the simple truth. You ran that picture like you never left, while tools tick and dust settles. Keep it professional and free of ceremony so the moment honors the team and the process. Use short breaths of sound, rotor cooling, a radio click, or a steady heartbeat to frame each line and help the audience feel the weight without pushing too hard. Begin with a clean timeline that breathes like a mission brief. From 0 to 10 seconds, hold red dust and a clipped radio tone to hook attention. From 10 to 60 seconds, show FARP life in quick beats that feel real and human. From 60 to 120 seconds, drop the reality that two Apaches sit down and let the clock get louder. From 120 to 210 seconds, move inside the Tactical Operations Center as the decision lands and maintenance spins up. From 210 to 300 seconds, lock into the cockpit brief and close with calm focus. From 300 to 480 seconds, ride the brownout, lift, and low transit with spare radio calls. From 480 to 720 seconds, build the first engagements with measured clarity. Then, from 720 to 840 seconds, run the show of force, beat as a hinge. From 840 to 960 seconds, hold the corridor open and keep force to the minimum needed. Land the denouement through 1,140 seconds with a steady return. Clean handovers and a soft pad set. Use micro hooks before each shift. One tight line or a TDAC cutaway, or the swell and fade of rotor noise to pin the gaze. Keep on-screen text minimal and TTS friendly. Define danger close, playtime, and TEDAC in a single plain sentence. Cut to the breath of the people on screen. Alternate tactile close-ups with wide frames to create a living rhythm while staying precise with symbology and procedures. Avoid heavy, slow motion and jumpy edits that break continuity. Let the story carry the viewer with clean pacing, simple language, and a through line that never loses the thread. The lesson from this forward arming and refueling point is simple and strong. Skill, discipline, and quiet responsibility build the wall that others use to pass through danger. Value in a uniform is measured by doing the right thing at the right time, not by a title or a rumor. The dust, the heat, and the checklist only matter because people chose to meet the moment with calm hands. Staff Sergeant Maya Brooks shows what that looks like in real life. As a 15R technical inspector and as a co-pilot gunner, she put safety and duty first, ran TEDAC with care, and helped shape a clean picture under positive identification and rules of engagement. Chief Warrant Officer 3 Daniel Miller carried the aircraft as pilot in command and made decisions that kept everyone safe. Together, they brought order to a hard day without asking for credit. If this story resonates, leave the word respect in the comments for the teams that keep missions flowing. Think of the 15R maintainers, the armament crews, the FARP operations staff, and the air crews who carry the load. Share this video with someone you believe quietly does the right thing, in uniform or out, because that is how a community holds together. Let the final image be dust settling, a kneeboard put away, and a quiet promise that the strength of any team is the trust and discipline of each person.